Welcome to Sandoval Video Box. This is a live stream of the January 2022 Sandoval Board of Directors meeting from the Sandoval Clubhouse. Viewing of this meeting is available at your convenience 24/7 on the YouTube channel Sandoval Video Box and Sandoval's website www.livesandoval.com. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to support Sandoval Video Box on YouTube by clicking both the subscribe button and bell to be notified of future meetings and presentations. The meeting will begin shortly. If you, the viewers, have any comments or recommendations you would like to see in future live streams, email your comments to sandovalvideobox@gmail.com. Sandoval Video Box thanks you for your support by subscribing and your participation by watching this meeting.
Okay. Welcome to the January 20th, 2022 Sandoval Community Master Association Board of Directors meeting. Let's start off with the pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Looks like we've established quorum. Melanie?
Yep.
Here?
Present. Here.
Kathy?
Present.
Kathleen?
Here.
Mr. Grady?
Here.
Marilyn?
Here.
Todd?
Here.
And we have some folks here from our management company, which is quite nice, refreshing, to say the least. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Hi there, my name is Siri Galecki. I'm Business Development for Associate Gulf Coast. Thrilled to be here today.
I'm Kathy Krieger. I'm your new General Manager, and I'm also thrilled to be here and very excited about what we're going to do with your community. Your turn.
Heather Brokaw, Director of Management Services for Associate Gulf Coast. And I'm thrilled that we have Sandoval, and we're going to work to get everything resolved and have a great working relationship with the community.
Yeah, we are. Very good. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome.
We can start off with resident comments on agenda items. The first person is Ed Casey, who would like to discuss landscaping. Ed, please come on up.
Louder, can't hear you. I spoke to you about this before, Ron. I've been here for like 4 years now. I live at Castleberry Court, right next to my neighbor here. Those people are still destroying the lawn with those heavy lawn mowers. They're chopping up the grass all the time, no matter what you tell them to do. If you come out, I gave you pictures of the last time. Please do something. My wife is really getting upset about it. And what it's doing to Marilyn's house also, the same thing.
And I'll go into this in a bit more detail in my manager's report, but Heather and Kathy and I, we went and we visited a lot of these areas that were of considerable concern, and this week we had a very spirited meeting. And I can tell you that things like the size of the mowers that are running into flower beds were specifically brought up.
Right.
And I understand these wheels are turning a bit slow, but they are moving in the right direction. And I will go over our action plan later today to explain what the next steps are.
Well, I spoke to Sonia. She came out numerous times. Also, the guy who's fixing the sprinklers and all that, he came out. But my lawn is turning brown. Where my neighbors on both sides of me, their grass is nice and green. And
Well, that's a problem. And according to the contract, they're responsible for that. They're responsible for the irrigation.
I
You
know.
pay a monthly amount.
That's why I'm just trying to bring it up again, Ron, to let you know that nothing has been done. and it's just getting worse. And even Sonia came out there, and she looked at it. And they're still running there like demolition derby drivers.
And that, I give you my word, will be addressed.
Okay.
And I appreciate you coming up and letting us know. There's a lot of people in this community, and so it's helpful to me, frankly.
I know.
To continue to hear where we can improve.
Okay.
But I can tell you that you're going to hear a lot about Down to Earth today.
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Next, we have Stu Sellen. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Okay.
We're going to talk to pool.
Yep. Actually, it's about the pool attendants.
Okay.
The girls there, nice as can be, they'll talk your ear off, whatever. After that, they're useless. 4 different things happened in the last month that I saw. Number 1, I'm watching these 3 kids, the oldest, a boy, maybe 12 years old, and 2 obviously younger than 10. They go up to the gate. They talk to Gabby. Gabby lets them in. I go, they didn't have a key or anything. I go up to her, I go, these kids aren't old enough, they don't have an adult. And I know they didn't have an adult because they put all their stuff right by the first umbrella stand there, and they went right in the water. Or no, the 2 girls did, and the boy was sitting out. And I go, where's their parent? And then Gabby goes, well, he's 14. I go, that's good for him, but how about the 2 girls? Well, and she looks at me and goes, I'll watch them. Shh, don't tell no one. Second incident, I'm in the water. 2 teenagers are playing with a football, and I get whacked in the back with the football. I tell them they're not supposed to be, it's a rule, you're not supposed to be throwing things in the water. So they stop. They go to Samantha, the other attendant, and she tells them it's okay, just go in one of the corners of the pool. Third incident is, I don't know what the other girl's name, she has kind of blondish kind of hair. And she's just sending kids down the slide, and usually you have one of the kids' parents at the bottom say it's clear to come down, and whatever gives them the thumbs up. Just sending them down randomly. And then the fourth thing, oh, actually there's more than 4. The fourth thing that they're doing in the pool is, from what I understand, and I've been taught a couple other times, they're doing all the pH readings for them. You got to put your hand in the water to get the water out, and then do your testing with that, not just go to just barely the top just to fill it up and take your readings from there. So nobody's teaching these kids, and they don't even know the rules. So I think we need more mature people that can say no to people and have them stick with the rules, because someone's getting hurt, and we're all going to be responsible for it. And then another thing is, we got to have them put their phone somewhere, because all they do is they don't clean any of the tables or the chairs. They're too busy texting and looking at videos or whatever else they're doing behind there. And in my opinion, we need, like I said, we need mature people that won't sit on their phone when they're not doing something, and have the initiative to go around and clean and get paid what they're supposed, and do what they're supposed to, what they're getting paid to do. I'm sure that's part of it, is cleaning as part of their duties. And I only seen them once in a while walk around the pool and pick the garbage cans, change the bags in the garbage cans.
There has not been clear guidance on what they should be and shouldn't be doing.
But they should know the rules.
Absolutely. So what we're doing is putting these SOPs in place. And the SOPs are basically standard operating procedure for this job. An employee needs to know what their job description is. And I was just jumping to my president's report, because it says here we are putting in place SOPs for all staff. Pool staff will have a written job description stating what they should be doing and what they should not be doing. For example, they should not be on their phones. Right. In addition, we're going to make sure that they understand our rules. And there needs to be consequences. So frankly, when residents see something, they need to report it to the manager or board member, and then we can get it addressed. But I can tell you, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying.
Right.
It's completely unacceptable. and I can see our new GM twitching as you state these things right now. So I've got a feeling that this is going to be a productive conversation. If you want to speak to it, Kathy?
The only thing I can speak to is so far everything that you've said is no longer employed.
Oh, good.
So that's a good thing.
Good. Well, I hope we replace them with
all
more
of those
mature
things
people.
all of those things that you mentioned will absolutely not be accepted.
Good.
So
And we appreciate the
additionally, to
comment.
add to that, Lauren Watson, who is now the lifestyle director, she and I are working together to do an SOP for that particular pool attendant. They're going to read that and understand it. We're going to have a checklist that they have to sign off on every day. And I've already brought this to Ron's attention and Kathy's. We're going to get lockers, and they're not permitted to have their cell phones on the pool
Not
deck.
even permitted to carry them.
Good. I mean, if there's something urgent, a resident usually has a phone, they can call 911 if they have to.
And Lauren, who is the lifestyle director, they'll be reporting directly to her. She was
So
here.
her eyes are here.
Yeah, so she's here every day. She has gone out there. She was here the first weekend that we took over, or the second weekend, and she individually went through and cleaned every pool chair. And then when Gabby came, is it Gabby or Haley? Haley came in the following Monday. That next week, she was instructed to clean the backside of the chairs.
Yeah, I've
So-
never seen anyone do it.
Well, this is, unfortunately, it's been long overdue.
Yeah.
We're aware of the issue, and now we're taking steps, and we've got a management that's willing to work with us to implement
good.
these things. And if you're not seeing changes,
Oh, I
please
will. I'll be
let
back here.
us know, because this is very, very helpful to us.
Yeah.
We appreciate the time you come here to share the comments with us. I mean, this is our neighborhood.
Like I said, I want to save a lawsuit.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Interrupt because I didn't know I was supposed to sign in to make a comment, but it's about the pool.
Please.
Because I'm the water aerobics volunteer.
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Sorry about that. I'm like, oh, I didn't know there was an order to come here and sign in to talk. But I've had many requests, not only of the over 120 that have signed up to do water aerobics, but other people have said to me, why isn't this pool heated? And I don't know what's happening, but the heat, from my understanding of the past management, had someone shut off the heat when the temperature drops below 50 at night, and it doesn't turn on again unless the air temperature is above 55 or 60 during the day. So I was told I can only do the water aerobics class at 9:30 in the morning. Guess what? When it's 55 degrees out and the pool water is 50, it's not happening. So I'm appealing to the board to get the heat regulated, and I was told on Facebook forum from other people, because I just moved here in April, that last year the heat was on all the time. They don't understand why it's being shut off. If it's a budget issue, they told me bring it to the board. I don't think it's a budget issue.
There was a period of time where there was a mechanical failure, and it did take some time to get the parts back. But it's my understanding that's no longer an issue. But part of this transition, we are evaluating our pool maintenance company quite closely, and we're raising our expectations. And in terms of the time for shutting off the heaters, will we find that out with our current and make sure that we get an answer?
Yeah,
And
and
if
I
you
did
wouldn't
talk to
mind-
Lauren. I already talked to Lauren, introduced myself and everything. And I said, Lauren, can you please let me know what the water temperature is? So she went out there. She found out there's no thermometer. There's no way to tell. I asked the recent guard as of yesterday, no thermometer, no way to tell. And Lauren even said, I'll go buy one. That's ridiculous. There should be a way to tell without having to go buy a thermometer. There should be a regulator where the pump is. Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that, at least historically, the way that the pumps have worked is they're heat pumps. It's not a propane heater that's set to always keep the water at a certain temperature. It takes the temperature from the air and uses it to heat the water. So if the air is cold, it's not going to heat the water, and that's part of when it's cold, the water isn't warm.
You're right.
So I don't know if when the pools are reevaluated, if there's anything else that we want to consider with that, but it's kind of, as far as my concern, is
There's a
working as
threshold, when
designed.
the air temperature reaches, like, I don't know if it's 50 or what the actual amount was, 55, the heaters cease, they stop operating.
And they
until
shouldn't.
the air temp.
But it's no longer effective at that point.
It's a feeture of the heaters. Why would they be blasting when
Okay.
in fact the air temperature?
Well, then my next
Yeah, yeah.
Discuss these details
Okay.
a bit later.
You're right. And then my next request, if that's the case, because there's too many people here, men and women, that like doing water aerobics because of various, it's a good exercise and everything, that would like us to be able to conduct it more when the sun's at its peak. Like today, it heated up to 78, but not till 1 or 2 o'clock. 9:30, it's still at 58. So, but I was told that we can't do that because residents would be upset. But we'll keep in a confined area. It's already dimensioned off where we're supposed to stay for this water aerobics.
What I would recommend, and I'm not being dismissive, is to send our GM an email with a request, and I'm sure she'll bring it to our attention. And we'll try to do what's fair for everybody. We want to make sure that everyone has access.
I really appreciate it, and over 120 other women that have participated, and men, since I started it in May, will appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I'm calling, you're Kathleen? It's nice to meet you. Thank you.
We have one last, sure. Jack helps you with the pool.
On those heat pumps, months ago, a few of them are not working, all right? I have no problem looking at them. Old management didn't want me to touch them, all right? I could look at them, I was in the trade, all right? I was a licensed contractor, all right? That's one of the issues. The guy they have now is clueless how they work. So that is the main problem. I'll offer my services. Doesn't cost you anything, and we can see what the problem is.
Well, we're certainly going to make sure our management evaluates currently. I'm aware of the staffing issues.
There's a few issues on the pool which you're aware of too.
And it's a complete mess back there.
Same thing with chemicals and stuff like that. My wife's a CPO. All right, it's ridiculous what's going on out there.
We'll follow up on it.
All right, thank you.
Bob?
Yes, my name is Bob. I'm on Stony Hill Court. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for being here. 2.5 years ago, I brought to the attention of the board that at that point, just the old building was sadly missing some handicap features that I feel are important. And now we've revamped that building, we put up a new building, and we still don't have any of those features.
Actually, Lauren, our director of Lifestyle, has actually already brought to my attention that we do need handicap access just from her notice of this building, just even going into the restrooms. The doors are too heavy. So that is already on my radar.
And this is something that we've received proposals for. The proposals were incomplete, so the board can properly evaluate them. We have new management, which is assisting us with it, and ultimately would be a board decision. But in terms of any ADA compliance, we are currently up to code. There's no question. We passed all our inspections. But this is whether we go that extra step. And I certainly understand your position. And I think the board's going to take it very, very seriously, and I would be very surprised if we don't have a very well-researched proposal. So, thank you, Bob.
The other part that I brought up back then, and I see we finally have a defibrillator, but I don't know that we have anybody that knows how to use it. Oh, good. So you're going to be here 24/7?
Nope. You didn't ask that
No.
part. You didn't ask that part. We're working on making sure that we have people that are CPR trained as much as possible, and we will introduce that program here.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
That's all I can do for right now.
We're going to move on to the approval of the board minutes. I believe we all got copies of the board minutes. Did anyone have any changes?
I do, Ron. From the December 9th board meeting, it's kind of the third of the page. Efforts of Elkins and Saganic. Saganic should be spelled Ciganek, not SEG. And the second page of that, kind of again, the third of the page, Aaron spoke of Action Electric Actually, the name of the vendor is Action Door and Gate, just for clarification on the record. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Todd. Anyone else?
Motion to approve as corrected.
A second. All in favor?
Right.
Okay. Now we can move on to the board president's report. Before I jump into the president's report, I just wanted to follow up on something that was a bit distressing from the last meeting. And I'll try to be as brief as possible. You know, my wife came up to me in early December, and she was pretty upset. She said, you know, we got to get out of here. They are tearing down Christmas decorations now. She came to me and said this. And I was like, whoa, you don't know that's true. She says it's posted all over the place. There's many residents are saying a board member went and tore down Christmas decorations. It really bothered her. So we had a board meeting on the 9th, and I explained to the residents what I did. I spoke to each board member, asked them if they tore down the decorations or directed anyone to tear down the decorations. They all said they did not. I asked all our staff. They said they didn't tear down the decorations or direct anyone to tear down the decorations. I explained this at the meeting. The response from some of the residents was that I was a liar, that I'm not telling the truth. They yelled this out during the meeting. So then what did I do? I contacted Envera because we have cameras to evaluate what actually happened. In addition, we evaluated who entered the building and who left the building. So this is the result, and it took a while for Envera to get this out. But the last this occurred on a Sunday. The last resident left around 4:30. The decorations were in place at that time. According to the cameras, at 11:30 that evening, the first decoration fell under its own weight. At 5:30 a.m., the second decoration fell under its own weight. The first resident didn't show back up until around 10 a.m. So in short, the decorations fell under their own weight. No one ripped down the decorations and threw them about. So all these Facebook posts accusing board members and calling out people's names during the holidays for all our neighbors to see, people looking at to buy houses in here to see, this doesn't hurt just the board. It hurts everybody. It hurts our reputation. And it's, honestly, to me, it's a disgrace. It really is. And there should be some accountability. And I can tell you that I'm evaluating that accountability because a specific board name was mentioned. And that's a mistake. So I want to move on from this, but I can't stress enough that there is a lot that's put on Facebook that hurts this community. Now, we're responsible in part because our communication has been awful. And that has been discussed with new management. And I think there's going to be a very strong effort to keep the residents up to date, to communicate frequently, so we don't be relegated to these gossip sites where you get partial truths and neighbors are hurting neighbors for whatever reason. So I'm going to move on from that. I'll start off with the transition. First, again, I'd like to welcome our new GM, Kathy Krieger. I can tell you I am personally very happy that you're here. We've worked together for a week now, and I feel, frankly, very optimistic. We also have our new social director, Lauren Watson. We are still interviewing for 2 maintenance positions and a deed restriction person. We expect to have those filled, hopefully within the next 10 days. It's been a bit of an odd time when it comes to staffing. We have a lot of responses to these positions. They set appointments to come and interview, but they don't show up. It's a very odd time because a lot of individuals find incentive actually not to work right now. Just
Actually still here,
Please.
so that you can introduce her.
Let's see.
absolutely in love with her, and I know you will be too if you give her an opportunity, because she's putting her whole heart into it, so I love her.
Yeah, thank you. My office is just right down there. If you guys want to get anything going or have any questions about overall recreation or things going on here at the clubhouse, please don't hesitate to stop by. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, and if you guys ever have any questions, I'll be available. Thank you all. Everyone's been great so far. I'm really happy to be here, and I see really awesome, fun things ahead. Thank you. My pleasure.
We are currently reviewing all current maintenance issues. We're paying special attention to issues at the pool and around the clubhouse. As discussed earlier, we're putting SOPs in place for all staff, including pool attendants. We are reviewing our website and all our documents, and hopefully we will be updating them in the near future. We're also going to be reviewing all the Taylor Morrison amendments to our documents. We will be revamping the new resident orientation program. And currently, residents are no longer handed gate access stickers to be placed on their car. We have trained staff that will put them in place. Some new things that we're looking forward to. Kathy and I discussed this today about a quarterly residential forum where residents can come and ask questions that aren't tied to agenda topics. This was raised in the past about a question and answer session, and I think it would be helpful. We also want to bring back the street rep program. We discussed that today. We think that would be very helpful to allow more residents to have a voice and be involved. Management will also have more involvement in committees. Committee meetings will be posted publicly. For example, we're going to have 2 landscaping committee meetings a month now. Our GM will be present, and residents are welcome to just come by. Coconut trees, we understand that they need to be cut. We have stressed that to Crawford, and we expect that to be done right away. A paver project, there is a shortcut through the grass in our clubhouse that we're adding pavers to. That's why the pavers are out. We're waiting for them to actually install them. That should be done quite soon. We've had some security issues recently. We've had some teenagers knocking on residents' door late at night. Very, very disturbing. We recently had an incident where some teenagers, if they were even teenagers, were using profanity at our new GM at the gym. Those things obviously are not going to be tolerated. Some of the things we're doing about it. First off, we're making sure that we discuss with our security and our management that there's a clear protocol. That first we ask for identification. If it's a serious issue and that identification isn't provided, then it's a police issue. If the police come back, sometimes they say this is an HOA issue. It's not an HOA issue until they establish it's an HOA issue. Therefore, they need to produce identification, and that identification can lead it to becoming an HOA issue. But once we have that identification, now we can handle it from a finding perspective. We're also expecting to meet with the chief of police in the near future. It's always good to have those conversations. We're also going to be expanding security hours on weekends. Management is now going to be aware of when school's out of session. And we're not just targeting kids that are in school, but unfortunately, recently, most of the incidents have been tied to kids that are out of school. So it would behoove us to know when school is in session and when it isn't, and tailor some security around that. Swimming at Calypso, that's another thing. They tore down the sign that says swimming with alligators. They're hanging on the gates of the dog park that now needs to be addressed. These they may sound like minor issues, but they do hold some real concerns for us, and we're taking them seriously. We're happy to have our city councilman, Tom Hayden, out. One of the main purposes is to really explain to everyone how much the area around us is being developed and how important it is for this community to be aware of ongoing projects that could have a negative impact on us. Also, should remind us to make sure our borders are strong, that our gates are actually functioning properly, and our fences are working. I've had a lot of emails about fireworks. Shooting off fireworks is illegal unless you have a permit to control birds. So unless you have that permit, shooting fireworks is illegal, and therefore it's a police matter. The HOA comes into play when there is danger to the road, there's damage to the road, or there's debris left around. We may want to consider expanding our rules to include specific provisions that would help us create more accountability. That said, our recourse is only to fine a resident. Security is not going to go up and try to control what they're doing. That is a criminal matter that's directed to the police. We're real excited about this Town Square app that Associa provides to the community, and we're going to have a presentation. I believe it's going to be in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Yes. We'll work out a schedule that is convenient, probably have a couple of them, and it will be just on Town Square. So you can learn all about the features and how it will benefit everyone with communication and access to information.
We should look to live stream it also.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's great.
Landscaping. We have seen a significant drop-off in quality from both Crawford and DTE in the last 6 months. I've seen a lot of weeds, debris, and just a lack of attention to detail. Our GM impressed upon them that she will be driving the property weekly to make sure that that the landscaping improves. We had a very spirited conversation with them recently, and we are optimistic that we're going to see some significant increase. You'll see the level of care, especially around the clubhouse, which frankly has been awful, improved significantly. So we did address that with Crawford directly this week and put some reporting requirements into place, and brought out some of their upper level management. As far as down to earth, as I alluded to earlier, 2 weeks ago, Heather and Kathy and myself walked some of the property, and we saw a lot of weeds, bare areas, torpedo grass just inundating the Floritam, and we all agreed that this was not an acceptable standard, and we felt significant changes need to be made. Recently, we had a 2-hour meeting with representatives from Down to Earth, and we all expressed our displeasure. We went over these issues point by point, and the end result is not one person on the call disagrees that the conditions are poor at best. Residents have every right to be upset. Frankly, I was upset when I saw the condition and continue to be. What we agreed on is that there will be weekly updates to all residents by Down to Earth. That will be facilitated through our management company. A corrective action plan will be in place. We just recently discussed this plan. Kathy was already on them today, saying, where is the plan? There will be increased communication from our HOA to the residents who receive landscaping to help them report concerns, educate them a bit on what they can and can't do to their yard. And if things do not improve, we still have options. We can submit a detailed letter of deficiencies and a definitive period to cure. If not, then we have options outside of Down to Earth. That said, they said they were committing to making significant changes. We will take them at their action, not their word, though. There has been some discussion about how the board gave Down to Earth a raise on Facebook. That is patently false. The contract, which was in existence since Sean Wilson, doesn't give the board discretion. It allows an increase based on the Consumer Price Index. That increase was brought to us in September. I told them that the requested amount was over the 5% cap and that I wouldn't consider anything over 5%. And I further told them that my interpretation of the contract is this is a yearly raise, and their period, year-by-year period starts in March. So currently they do not have a raise. But obviously it's going to be a discussion going forward. I'll try to wrap this up. Looking forward to the future, we are going to be working hard to be decorating this clubhouse. We expect significant landscaping improvements around the clubhouse. I've had some help from some residents to explain some of the steps that need to be taken to help with the bocce ball courts. We're looking to redo the pavers, add fans to the tiki huts, redo the actual courts, and we are considering maybe changing to artificial depending on the feedback from the players, addressing irrigation, replacing the rotted bumpers, and address the drainage issues. We're also considering whether to replace the rubber in the playground with synthetic grass. We are getting active bids right now, and that will be likely presented by the Capital Improvement Committee. Finally, we have an election coming up. I can say that we're going to try to make the process as easy as possible for the candidates. Management will be running the election, and we really hope that as many residents submit their name, we would like to see a really diverse, large group come and volunteer to help your community. And that's the report. Thank you for your time.
Before we move to the next person, if you don't mind, on the landscaping thing, sure. One thing that came up during that meeting, and I'm begging you, don't approach the crew. If you have a problem with something that they're doing in your yard, or you feel like something's not being done properly, they are not in a position to make a decision or change their directive from their supervisor. So if you would, please email me, and I will address it with their supervisor, because that has been an ongoing issue. There have been some abuse allegations, and I really want to avoid that. There's never a reason for any staff member, whether it's somebody working for you here or out on the landscape, to feel threatened. So I really beg you, if you have any issues at all with the landscapers, any employee, please direct your comments and questions to me. I would greatly appreciate that.
Okay. We can go to the board treasurer's report. Ms. Tubb.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for posting the agenda to this meeting on Town Square, where it was electronically available to all the residents if they chose to log in and look at it. The Treasurer's Report. November 30, 2021 financial highlights. The November financial statements were received on December the 21st, 2021. The Finance Committee met on January the 11th, 2022 to review, and no questions were forwarded to the Treasurer for discussion. I'm concerned that as Sandoval transitioned to a new management company on January the 1st, 2022, we'll have a reoccurrence of our January the 1st, 2021 transition from Pope Properties to FSR, where invoices received by the prior management company in January for the prior year were not accrued into our system, causing our year-end financial statements to be overstated. I do not believe any financial statements supplied by FSR for the period ending December 31st, 2021 to be reliable. Without reliable information, I expect this to be my final Treasurer's Report to the Sandoval HOA prior to our annual meeting in March. What we're going to need is our CPA auditor's independent auditor's report and his financial statements, which we can rely on. And at that point, we can give you a new report. As of November 30th, accounts RSV1, RSV4, and RSV5, our reserves, contain $1,888,481. Accounts RSV3 and RSV6, our bulk telecom accounts, contained $1,021,091. And OPR 1, 2, and 3, our operating accounts, contained $814,302. Clubhouse is complete. All construction invoices have been paid. On December 6th, a transfer of $912,899.77 from RSV6, bulk telecom account, was made to OPR 1, the operating account. At the same time, a transfer of $1,112,102.57 was transferred from OPR 1 operating account to the RSV 1 reserve account. Had these taken place in November, our bulk telecom balance would have been $108,191.23. Reserves would have been $3,583,000, and the operating account would have been $615,099.20. Delinquent homeowner accounts over 30 days old has remained stable since our last report. And our tech from Cybersecure IT Solutions was on site January 10th to inventory our IT equipment and our software to verify that nothing had been removed, and it had not. That was originally the end of my treasurer's report, but two more things came to mind afterwards, so I've added them. Kathy Williams, Associates accounting person, told me Tuesday that she's received the homeowner balance information from FSR. She's proofing that information prior to posting it to ensure it goes to the right accounts, but residents should be able to log on to their Town Square accounts in the next couple of days and see the correct balances with any balance due from prior periods or any credits from prior periods. That should be reflected soon. And finally, the association's last certificate of deposit matured in June, July, and November 2021. So we currently have no CDs left. They've all matured and paid out. So there's no investments other than our sweep accounts, which sweep nightly and go into a money market account. You may want to discuss future investments among yourselves and to give guidance to the Finance Committee as to what you would like for them to do. And that's it.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Has there ever been a year when expenditures accrued in December haven't been posted in the following year?
Per accounting policy, an invoice received in January for services received in December must be accrued into your December financial statements. Pope always did that. We've never had major accrual problems. What do you remember? Well,
we discussed them, frankly.
We had $122,000. It was.
Now you remember.
That was accrued. That was put on the balance sheet as an asset. Turned out it was worthless, and we had to write it off. But it was on there. What I'm concerned about is things that don't even show up.
Well, there were significant issues across the board. I think the point is that this isn't an anomaly. Is there anything outstanding that FSR has not gotten us that we can help?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't see that. So what they received in the mail.
Well, that will have to be
the auditor will check on that.
Okay. That's all I have for you.
Is that it?
Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
I have one thing, Ron.
Please.
I'd like to publicly and personally thank Bill for 3 years that he's contributed to being the treasurer. He inherited a mess. He's worked through it, and we're in a better spot than we've ever been. And so, in addition to, he's been very instrumental in the transition from FSR to Associa. I know that personally I was on 4 or 5 meetings with him and Kathy Williams from Associa, and a lot of the stuff that is transparent to the board was handled by Bill, and I was involved in that. But we made that transition very smooth. But again, the work that this gentleman has done over the last couple of years has been phenomenal. So kudos to you, sir.
Thanks.
I think I read that you're not going to continue as treasurer.
That is my intention, yes.
And I was very disappointed when I read that because I just rely on you so heavily for our financial information. And so I hope you reconsider, and I hope you stay on.
We're all disappointed.
I think you have a board member who can probably take over that. Did Melanie have a question?
I did. I have one question. The funds that we haven't actually used that were set aside for furniture for the clubhouse, is that what this 108, 191? Okay. Yeah. That was it. That was my question. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Just as a follow-up for the owner ledgers, once Kathy has posted all of the owner ledgers to the current associate accounts, we will send out communication to the owners that the accounts have been updated from the prior management ledgers. Oh, Kathy Williams.
It's not me. I don't do the money.
Well, they specifically tell the individuals, it'll recap what their account number is, and then the issue with the CenturyLink credit, the 156 whatever, or the 2 cents that were...
It'll be listed as a prior management credit if they had a credit with the prior management company. Okay. That's how it will be listed on their ledger.
Okay, super. That'll be helpful. Thank you.
I'm going to have Todd discuss the capital expenditure process?
Thanks, Ron. Excuse me. This is exciting for me. This is a process I think that we've needed for many, many years. The HOA has always struggled with policy procedures and workflow issues in regards to related expenditures to outside expenses outside of the approved budget. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce Dave Saganik, who is a member of the Finance Committee, who has put together a workflow process to help us with how to handle expenditures outside the approved budget. This will fit perfectly, Melanie, into the $108,000 in the remaining construction fund, as well as any additional expenditures outside of the budget. Sir?
I have a better introduction for him too, if you don't mind.
He wanted to add a few words.
Feel free.
I didn't know you were going to do that, Todd, but I'm glad you did. Well, all of you know Dave. The reason I want to introduce him is because I want to say some good things about him first. He's made many significant contributions to Sandoval for these past few years. He's a disciplined analyst and helped us to evaluate a number of projects with his excellent analytical approach. These included, but are not limited to, the selection of our management company, risk management approaches, and investment strategy. We've all observed ideas and projects requiring board approval, as Todd mentioned, and we need something better. So our finance committee has worked on a project, and Dave has done extensive work and analysis and has documented a process which I hope you will adopt.
Well, thank you all. I really appreciate that. That's a fantastic introduction. So the process is really a workflow so that you can carefully evaluate whether a process fits in to the HOA docs. You can evaluate the cost. You can evaluate bids. So on your packets, I kind of have a wheel of life. It starts out with the questionnaire. So I've heard a number of projects today. Someone wants to do this, wants to do that, proposes that. So I've devised a questionnaire. We passed this through the Finance Committee. The questionnaire is in your packet, and it resolves some of the things and questions that either board members or residents would have, in particular to the usefulness or the worthiness of a project. After that, our general manager would review that project questionnaire, and they would offer guidance saying, well, you really need to go out and connect with this committee and get the committee to back it. We've heard of the Capital Improvement Committee, for instance. You need to go to the Landscape Committee, see what their opinion is. Okay? So that work is done by the project proposal committee or person. Then the GM would prepare, as a result of information received, we kind of call it sometimes in the industry a one-pager, though it came out to be 2 pages. And there the pertinent information as to bids, the name of the project, who's behind the project, the name of the person, the committee, whether or not you need a permit, if there's a legal firm, a variety of things that would be very, very important to the successful completion of the project, including costs. Because you may come up with a project that's not in the budget. And you may come up with this very well-thought project in February, and there's no money in the budget. It's not in an operating budget. It needs something for consideration. So the manager would prepare that packet, present it to the board. She would also go, in this case Kathy, she would present that to the Finance Committee and say, how does this fit into the budget? So we can actually, on the Finance Committee, render some recommendations back to the board, make it useful. Any additional committees, and I've been on some ad hoc committees where the extent, for instance, of the research involving the management companies. That was an ad hoc committee, but we really worked hard on it. And we developed a process that we think is really inclusive and hard to shoot holes through it. So that could be coming out of this particular project, that it really needs a lot more detail than just going out and get bids. Okay? After that, and the manager feels competent that the information is prepared, it's in an orderly fashion, there's been some bids, proper bids, all the things that you can possibly think of that can make a project successful, puts together that package and brings it to the board, and the manager presents this project to the board for discussion. And then the board at that time can say whether they want to vote on it, whether they want to refer it back to a particular question that they may have. So it's a workflow process. If you think through a project, I have an idea, what does it take? Should I get other people involved? What are the costs? What's the impact to the community? How do the residents feel? Sometimes you come up with a project and you need to change the docks. There's even a question here, is a resident vote required? Okay? And if you don't know, then the manager has to say, our current docs don't permit that. You need to rethink that proposal. Okay? So it involves basically completing of a questionnaire, a one-pager completed by the manager. And we did this actually when we had the stormwater rebates. We actually developed this process. I developed this process 6 years ago. And there were some instances where there was just one company that could provide the answer to things. They were very specialized. So we've included a sole source justification form as well. So if it's a particular company or it's a proprietary system, then that needs to be documented. So when it comes to the board and the residents ask questions, say, well, we've done that research here. Here it is. Okay? So the packet evolves over time, but there's a lot of work that has to go into the questionnaire phase of this, and that's completed by either an amenities group, the architectural group, some group, or some other group of residents that may get together. Members are here, there's a date, there's an estimated funds, there's a completion date. How long do you think the project would last? Do you need an architectural firm? Do you need a legal firm? So all of those questions are answered, and I've put this together as a fillable form. So you just basically click X, it fills into the dot, you type things right in. So it really has some drop-down menus, so we're consistent, and when we get a report back to the board. Okay? Any questions? Yes?
So currently, we've been using the BAR, the budget approval requests, right? BAR, budget approval.
Typically for
request
reserve items.
only when it impacts the reserve. So basically, it always comes down to the source of funding.
Correct.
So I think with the BAR, though, we go through this process, maybe not to the degree of detail you elaborated on.
Well,
To justify, because we do a one-pager for the BAR as well.
You could just use the one-pager part for the bar. Actually, there's a box I put here, allocated, unallocated funds in the bar. But you would want to have at least, I guess we could call it, and call it in the legal industry, one-pager, because they do a lot of litigation support. So you would have everything on one page. Now, there may be some sections that don't apply, and that would be a case where you're doing a reserve item, but at least you've got the project documented, okay? And if someone were to look back at this and say, what was the result of that bar? Right now, I mean, I've studied the finances here. I've been on the committee for the last 6-7 years, and where's the detail to some of these bars? So this would contain that, and it would be easy to use, and it would be open to residents to look at. And I think it's really a step forward. It systematically gives a process, but it also contains some good workflow. Any other questions?
Does a resident go to one of these committees to start this process, or do they do it on their own and then the committee gets
think
pulled
about
in?
it. You could have a very brilliant resident or just someone comes up with a great idea, but like anything, you need some sort of backing. You need some sort of research. I mean, the board relies on committees for research. So I would say that person, that resident, that group should really seek out the expertise that we have on our committees and get that committee behind that particular research.
Yeah.
Okay? The second thing is I suggested on some evaluation criteria on the back of the questionnaire that someone should really take a look at that. Community suitability, committee or resident group support. I mean, you're going to need some sort of support. Okay? Now, if the support is yourself, then you document it, fine. If it's a good case, this form will still work, okay? But if you have a group supporting that, and echoing, I mean, we have a lot of residents with a lot of experience here. And someone may come and say, if I had that experience before, and you would want to elicit the support of that person for your particular project. There's cost, there's due diligence, manager approval. The manager is going to be instrumental in fine-tuning this and making sure it gets done. So none of the board members are faced with, I think I have a question about something, and you're trying to find the answer at a board meeting. It should be really coming to the board at the time.
Process to achieve more transparency also.
Yes.
Sure. Allow the residents to hear the process of how their money is spent, that an advisory committee is going to make a presentation at a public board meeting to the board, and then therefore the board would vote. And as being part of that meeting, all residents would understand the process and where their money is going.
You're right on point. In fact, when I did this with the stormwater, I actually printed out every single one of these questionnaires. We had like 15 projects. And we had the comments of the committee. We had the bids. I didn't include some of the paperwork on the bids because that would have been paperwork intensive, but every resident could sit down and read through what that particular project was, and then they can make intelligent questions when they come up here and ask a question about that particular topic. So yes, transparency is number one.
Historical perspective that we have consistent documentation. You know, that everything is being evaluated in a consistent way, and it isn't pet projects or anything like that, that it's just across.
That was on my mind when I said, let's make this a fillable form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, you know, I have the estimated time to complete the project. It says choose an item if you see the gray part about that. Well, obviously, I'm making that within a budget year, okay? So that we can come to some decision. If it comes before budget review at the end of the year, at least we know it's a 3-month project and it was in February. We need to take a look at it maybe for next year, you know, something like that. So yeah, transparency, documentation, systematic type of approach to a project so you can make an intelligent decision. Some things may not require all of the detail, but it's going to be the same format that you go through.
Are you suggesting that all committees use this? Like, I'm new, so I'm asking this just for my own knowledge.
Good question.
I know each committee has a budget, so just per se, if landscaping has a budget of $5,000 and they want to do something for $1,000, do they do this proposal, or is it for over their budget?
I don't know. The board may correct me. I don't think the committees have a budget. At least we've asked on the finance.
Outlined
the landscape has
the costs and whatnot to be considered in the budget request.
They have contracts for services, but no committee, especially the finance committee, has the authority to expend any money unless you tell us to. Okay, so. But I did actually every single committee I made a presentation when I first did this. I instructed all the chair people and the people on the committee on how this is going to work and what they had to do, and it worked well. We had 2 or 3 at a time. I sat down with them, put it up on the screen, said all you got to do is open this up. It's a template, and you type in the people's names, you type in the name of the project, you type in where you're at it, where you want to go with it. And I got all this. No one refused to ever do this. In fact, they were very happy to put it on paper. They're very proud. Historically, I can actually show you if you want some of the completions, actually from some past board members and how they approached these projects. They're really serious about it.
Another question is, does any of this conflict with from our property management about what your process would be as far as approaching this?
This is something that was discussed during my interview process. I was asked what would I recommend for a capital expenditure approval process. And because I was still very much tied to the job that I was doing before I came here, I just popped out a quick email in response to Mr. Elkins with a bullet point, and it was almost identical to this. The only difference is this is a little bit more drawn out than it needed to be based on what I did, but he's also covering more ground than I did. My bullet point basically was when somebody wants to do something, regardless of whether it's reserve or operational, you have plenty of committees here, and they all have a mission and they all have a goal of things that they want to do. So the example he gave was the landscaping, you were talking about, do you have to bring that? No one can spend money but the board. So either way, it's going to go to that committee. You're going to tell them what your idea is. Even something as simple as Christmas lights he talked about earlier. If it's in the budget, we discuss it that way. If it's not, we find out how we can do it. But it goes to the committee. The committee reviews their proposition, which will be on this form. I love what he did here. When you review it, if it needs bids, then they've got to get those bids. If they bring it to me and it has not been brought and vetted by the finance committee, they're going to be sent to the finance committee, because I feel like there's no good proposal unless it's been run by the finance committee, because who knows the budget better than they do. Whether the finance committee agrees or not, it still goes to the board, because the board is the one where the buck stops here. What happens then? Let's say somebody brings you one that the finance committee didn't approve it. They didn't think it was in the best interest of the community, or whatever their reason. Even if they think it should be next year, it still comes here. They have the right, you as a board have the right to still approve it, but the treasurer, whether it's Mr. Tubbs or not, I'm gonna bribe him with pumpkin bread, but whoever it is that ends up being the treasurer then speaks on behalf of the committee and states that they did not support this motion, or they do. But you still, at the end of the day, make the final decision. This gives you every piece of information you need, and what I like about this process is that you're not going through all the minor, tedious task of having to research everything, prolonging the process by sending people back to the drawing board. By the time it comes to you, it should be a simple yay or nay. So I fully support this. I love what he did here. It's good.
Thank you guys very much. I initially had placed days on here to address your time, because you don't want this thing dragging out. But I kind of took that out because I'd like to hear some feedback, from the board. So how long between you get a questionnaire and I just brought back to the manager? Well, we can't be waiting 2 years for something. And then you raise your hand and say, how come that wasn't done? Okay. So, you could look at this, give it some thought, but I think the process still flows in terms of completing that questionnaire, getting that information out, getting a commitment to put to paper what you're really proposing for the board, getting the proper research as to where you should be getting research. The sole source justification actually eliminates nepotism in terms of, I'm going to get my brother-in-law to do things. It allows you to really go out, and the manager actually has control over professional personnel that she may recommend for this particular job. Did you ever consider this one as opposed to that? Okay, and then go back to the committee. Let's say the person go out and check with them. Bring me in some preliminary proposals. I'll send out actually the actual ones. It has to be received back to management. We have to have the professional staff really evaluate this, really, because that's, I think, the goal of the board. Okay, we shouldn't be doing it other than inspecting and going back and making sure everything's there. Okay, so that's it. It's kind of just like any type of thing you can think of where you're spending money. You call it a project, you call it a capital expenditure. There's some way that this process, these two forms, either the one-pager form, which capsulizes everything, or the questionnaire could be utilized, okay? And if we go into an RFP or an ad hoc, we actually have some structure on an RFP. We could report on that on another day, because remember how some of the board members, we use that matrix? I actually had, initially, I didn't put it on the one-pager, matrix scores that the manager can go in and say, how well did you do on bids? How well did you do on adequateness back to the committee? And you score it on a 1 to 5. 5 being you did a great job. 3, you did an average job. 1, you didn't do much of anything at all.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I have just very quick comments. First of all, the most important thing to realize is Kathy is the stopgap. Okay, the buck stops with Kathy, so it all flows through Kathy. It doesn't circumvent the system. Kathleen, to answer your question, this process is designed to address extraordinary items outside the budget, not necessarily budgetary items. Mr. Chairman, does the Finance Committee endorse this program?
Absolutely.
Okay. With that, I'd like to make a motion to adopt this particular process, please.
I second.
Yeah, I was going to second. So.
Any comments, discussion? We did have a pretty robust discussion, I think we can move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? That moves. Excellent. Thank you again, Dave. Thank you. All right, we can move over to our general manager's report. I haven't had one of these in a while.
Well, I like the list because he's already addressed 1, 2, 3 of these things already. Well, the transition report, basically, we've already covered because I just started on Monday. I do want to let you know your search team was very thorough in their questions, and that was a very long, drawn-out interview process, but I think we answered all the questions. I did, in good faith, give 3 weeks' notice at my former employer because I had a leading role there, and I won't leave a place hanging, so I wrote them a 30-page how-to guide before I left. We are in the process, like Mr. Spooner mentioned before, we are trying desperately to get the staff here that will service you in the way that we feel you deserve to be served. But we are truly having a hard time with people making an actual appointment for an interview and then just not showing up. So here we get hope thinking, oh good, we're going to have this role filled, and then they just never even show up. So I don't want you to think, as you see things go slowly, that it's from lack of trying. I don't understand this COVID world we live in where everybody finds a reason to stay home and live off of unemployment, because that would drive me crazy. I'd get bored with my own company. But we will get everything staffed, and we are looking for valuable, truly good, hardworking people that we are going to bring you excellent service, or the mama in me will come out on them. The traffic control is something that I actually followed up on today after speaking with Mr. Spooner and getting some background on that. That bid process, I actually have it in my inbox right now. She promised that she would have the final bid to me. The bid has already been approved by the board with a not to exceed. So all of the items that were previously discussed, I will be able to provide more information on that next month. You'll actually see some of it done by then is what my real hope is. The election schedule, we did receive the documentation from the attorney this week that had all of the paperwork in order with your first notice, second notice, and all of that. And I will be posting a schedule because I know that in the past this has been very much a member-run process, but for the sake of appearances, you really want to have as few member fingers in it as you can possibly do. So we're going to work on that. There's 3 big dates that you have to keep in mind by Florida law. I already have those marked on my calendar. And I'm not saying that we won't utilize volunteers, of course we will, but we don't need quite as much as what's been presented to me so far, so I hope everyone will take in good faith that we are going to do this 100% in accordance with the law and as transparent as possible. So we will get that going for you. And as soon as I can get these dates all listed out, it will be emailed out. My goal as far as communication is concerned is that you will get a weekly GM e-blast from me every Friday starting next week, not this week. My head's still spinning with the pinball machine that it's been. But next week we'll have, starting every Friday, every Friday morning, you will get a GM e-blast from me. And if I don't have anything to report, I'll just tell you, ain't it gorgeous outside today? You're gonna hear from me either way. So I do want to assure you of that. As Mr. Spooner mentioned earlier, we spoke with that landscape company that everyone's been having trouble with. I cannot for the life of me remember their name. I just call them DTE in my head. I can't get, that's all I have in my head. It was actually, as much as it was a Come to Jesus meeting, it was also very fruitful. And I truly have faith in these guys that they have a good heart. They want to make it right. There were promises made, and they're going to do everything they can. But picture a skinned knee on your child, and you throw a Band-Aid on it after you put your Neosporin on there. The next morning, you take the Band-Aid off. The cut's still there. So it's going to take time. So that's the only thing that I am going to emphasize is this isn't going to be an overnight fix. You can't put pesticide down on Monday and go out Tuesday and the answer's still there. Well, yeah, you get penicillin for something from the doctor. How long's your prescription? 10 days. So everything takes time is my point on that. Do trust the process. We worked very hard during that meeting, and they are going to have, I am physically going to be walking with these guys street by street through this community, taking note of what needs to be done. As you know, this is a large community, so this isn't going to be something that's done in a week. But believe me, they are on my radar, and this will be followed up on a regular basis, and they will be held accountable for anything they don't do right. And that's all I have. Back to you, Mr. Spooner.
Thank you. We're going to move to the ad hoc committee reports. We can start off with Taylor Morrison litigation. There's no significant update at this point. I think it would be a good time to discuss adding another board member to the committee. So at this time, I'd move to add Todd Reinhardt to the Taylor Morrison Litigation Committee.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Except for Todd? You can't reject it.
I can't say it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Risk Management Committee?
I don't have anything, but I think the Risk Management Committee, for Kathy's sake, the Risk Management Committee previously has walked, they do annual periodic inspections, and they document some of the hazards and safety concerns for follow-up action. So I think with the Risk Management Committee chair and as liaison, maybe we can get with you and sort of outline our process, and we'd be happy to tweak it. And then we would look to do our spring inspection. Yeah. Okay.
I just add that that's the ultimate responsibility of our management company. So what you would be doing would be supplementing or helping them. We're going to have set periods of time with associate in which we're going to expect these community evaluations, and we're going to have a forum, and not only to address any hazards but also maintenance issues. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. We're scheduled to do that on a quarterly basis, and we'll have.
You can dovetail.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
My favorite part is Envera evaluation.
Let me take that one.
Okay, please.
If you want me to take that
yes,
one.
Yes, I do.
Okay. The good news is that we have started the process of evaluating the renewal of the Envera contract or terminating that contract. We met with Kim Beitner from Envera on the 18th of January to start the discussion. Our contract actually expires in August of 2022, not April, as we found out. And if we were to terminate our services with Envera, we'd have to give 30-day notice. The challenge here, as everybody knows, is Envera is an access control system. It's not a security system. Let me repeat that. It's an access control system. It's not a security system. So it's a little bit different. And as you've heard Rick talk many times, trying to get both systems to talk to each other has been a challenge, but I think he's done one hell of a job in trying to get some consistency to the way the gates operate. So we've started with our discussion. We've given Kim some direction in regards to what we would like to see from a community in regards to equipment, more importantly, cost. Of course, this is a Todd Reinhardt comment. Of course, they want a 5-year contract. And I said, well, you might as well forget that. That isn't going to fly. And so we're looking at other options. And I will actually say Kim was extremely flexible with listening to what we had requested. We're going to get a copy of their new contract. And I should say the members of this committee, which include Bill Dunker, will be looking at that contract exclusively, because he had some major concerns in regards to the one-sidedness of the liability side with Envera. So the process has started. I think at this point, a big thanks goes to Rick. I don't think we can say enough. He's out there first thing in the morning. If there's an issue, he's out there at night. And so with him and Aaron, we're in good hands. And in 2022, we do have monies allocated in the budget to improve the Envera experience if we decide to continue, and the gate experience. So Rick, you have 2 minutes.
I'll be with what's going on the field. I'll be with Action tomorrow afternoon. We're going to replace the gate arm up Veterans exit, the one that was hit Surfside, that was hit Sunday night. I'll be replacing that one. They were on film. That was a resident. They were caught. You guys have the information, so it's up to you what you do with them. The only other thing we have to change is I need the pecking order changed with Envera. Having 15,000 people from associate doesn't do Sandoval any good. And they send me an email. I don't check my email, especially on Sundays, because I'm having cocktails. So if we could, I would prefer if they call me, and then we can, it's easier for me. I mean, I can go out there and fix things a lot quicker. It wouldn't be the first time. Yeah, if we could do that, and I can work it out with her. I think it's no secret that me and Pinella didn't get along. Pretty much didn't talk for the last 3 months. I was going straight to Gary, said I'm done with her. Take your pick. He took me, and he took care of it. So other than that, if I could get some bait boxes so the rats down there don't chase me on Surfside. Yeah, there you got. You know, I'm not afraid of too much, but rats is one of them. Yeah, especially when it's night. I mean, it was 5:30
Yeah, that's
Monday morning, and they're palm rats.
Some rat bait. Oh, those things are so nasty.
We do have an issue with the center gate down there. Somehow, some way, I don't have a key, and neither does Sandoval, to get into the motor. So I will have action when they're there, open it up. There's an open circuit somewhere down there. Unfortunately, this is what the Trafalgar Gate used to look like. This is what it looks like now. This is about 35 hours of what's been chopped up down there. So we will take care of it. We're on our way. The gates are, I believe I got to go in the right way, finally.
It's been installed.
What's that?
Have the battery backups been installed?
Oh, that was
just making
last
sure.
summer.
Well, I haven't been getting reliable communication from our previous management company, so I want to go right to
No. I done that last summer. Also,
okay, so that's done, correct?
No, but I'll be doing it again. I mean,
Okay.
you get.
Do we need to get the box rekeyed?
I don't know yet. I'm hoping he just has an extra one.
Okay, if
Kind of
not,
a master one.
Well, you see, the problem with that one, that's a Chamberlain. That thing is 12 or 13 years old. So I took every key Monday out of there and went down there and tried every one.
okay. And I bring this up at every board meeting. I would hope that you guys would still continue to try to get the longer arms replaced, because we have an issue where we're keeping the gates open during the day, but that allows motorcycles and bicycles to come right in, yet we're locking our pedestrian.
Here's your
gate.
problem. That is an extended one down there.
I want solutions, not.
Here's the deal on it. The way the towers are set up, they don't make one long enough.
I got faith in you, Rick. You can come up with
I can do a lot of things, but you want how much money, how many hundreds of thousands you want to spend?
I'm backing up my friend here is that the Envera folks said that the longer gates will not work because the towers that we presently have will not support it.
Well, maybe we need to get a price on the tower.
We already are.
We are.
But
Already have.
remember, you know, we are spending money on replacing motors for the actual gates. Those gate motors are used extensively during the day, and we're keeping them out, so we're saving money there. So we have to look at the full picture here.
Well,
now here's the other drawback from that, is if those things get hit, they're one and done. Because they're so long, you run over them. That's what happened to that one down there.
Do they provide any warranty or
for a car running over it? No.
Envera does not support them.
Well, realize as a consequence that our gates are open to motorcycles, and we've had some reports from residents that there are motorcycles going through at a high rate of speed. We can't determine whether they're residents or not.
Ron,
I've got some emails on that.
I would say take that with a grain of salt. There's not that much room. In fact, a bicyclist hit the gate on Sunday. They were adults. I mean, they actually physically hit the gate itself where it stopped halfway open. And last night, somebody got hit by a gate arm.
I know a board member who has a pretty large motorcycle that just goes around the gate all the time.
He's pretty talented.
I don't know who.
say, I'd make two quick comments. Is that in 2022 we've allocated in the operating budget $25,000 to make upgrades. That's a 2-year commitment. 22, 23, $25,000 a year. So Rick and Aaron are going to be looking at that. In addition to, we've been given a service agreement for the Action Automatic, the actual swing gates as far as the motors, and we'll be making a determination on whether we're going to do that on a quarterly or semi-annual basis. So,
you're correct of what we talked about. We can do that a lot cheaper without signing that contract. A lot cheaper.
And to make sure that people that are coming in this community are supposed to be here, frankly, and that's the real reason. I think Marilyn wanted to mention something.
I use the Trafalgar Gate 4 or 5 times a week, and exiting is no problem. Entering, there are 2 ways to enter. The gate on the right.
Yep.
Many times I have to back up 2 or 3 times to get the green light to go off. Yesterday, it just would not come on, so I backed all the way out and went in through the gate on the left. And so, consequently, I think there must be some kind of a problem with that gate on the right.
Would you drive a Mercedes by chance?
You know I do. You've seen me there.
There's 2 cars that are a major problem. Teslas and Mercedes.
Yeah, but I never have.
And it's only on that gate. And the best thing to do is let me look at your sticker that's on there.
I never have a problem on the left gate, so that's the one I use now instead of the right.
I understand, but let me look at your sticker. There's a lot of stickers out there that are in the wrong spots.
And Kathy, we're going to have office staff trained to install those stickers properly. The issue, okay, I want to make sure they're trained because in the past they weren't trained properly.
We've been trained. I've watched her put them on this week, and then Heather just brought up that with those same 2 vehicles, we need to talk with Envera because there is a grill reader. You have, what did you call the glass?
You have lead glass on your Mercedes, so it's probably not reading, and you have to go back and forth.
But I don't have any problems at the Pine Island gate.
Yeah, I know. We have a lot of communities where they have Envera or they have another reader. And if it's a Mercedes, Tesla's, a Range Rover, they have to have grill gate access because it won't read through the windshield.
We can also put one on the headlight too. There's a couple of cars where we actually put dual ones on there.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. Excellent.
I just have one quick question.
For sure.
So, Todd, like you had said earlier, obviously Envera is just one component of our gates. The black gates we own, that's nothing to do with Envera, and we know there's issues with those. As part of the Envera evaluation, can we see like what our options are for both sides of it? So it's just like fixing gates versus this one and that one?
Yes, you will.
Okay, perfect.
And that was a great segue into my goal is to have to the board by second quarter of 2022 a proposal that's going to be a catch-all for everything, and then we can pick and choose what we want to do from that, equipment-wise, or termination, whatever we want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple matters just to clean up real quick. I have a resolution that I don't think was sent out because I didn't have the verbiage. So I would like to move to pass the following resolution, that each board elect a board liaison to communicate directly with management. It is the responsibility of the liaison to communicate with each board member and gain a majority consensus prior to instructing management. If no liaison is elected, then the liaison defaults to the board president. Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Yeah, only that we've done it in the past, and it seems like it just streamlines from everybody having to communicate individually.
The goal is to make sure that everyone realizes that this board functions as a board, not individuals. Management does not have 7 bosses. Mm-hmm. They have the board collectively, and the president has no significant meaning president doesn't get off and just start pointing fingers. It's the board that communicates, and it's actually not a fun position because you have to go and find out what the board instructs you to do. So that's the thought process behind it. So at this time, I'd like to take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I just got a couple more.
You mentioned one about a role earlier today, the role of the president and the directors.
Yeah, that's basically was what I was referring to.
One and the same?
Yes.
Because then that was falling under the communicating instructions to management?
Exactly.
All right.
So if we don't elect a board liaison, unfortunately, it'll be made for the next president.
Will we be choosing one tonight?
If you guys want to. If you want to change, it's up to you guys.
I would like to nominate Kathleen Felicitic for that position.
I'll second.
What position? I missed that.
The board liaison.
For?
Communicating with you, directly with management.
It would be confusing with Kathleen and Kathy.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, let's do a board discussion. Just for me, I'm in the midst of working with Associa. We're in the process of reviewing a lot of SOPs. We're in the process of implementing a lot of new changes to the community. We're actively involved in all these landscaping meetings. We have meetings all week. Frankly, it's not an enviable position. So if the new liaison would have to realize there's a lot of responsibility currently that comes on with this, and I would be taking what I'm doing and handing it off. So I suggest everyone think about this because it is a big decision currently. Excuse me? Till at least till March. Let's not get crazy here.
Okay. Just from a management perspective, and everywhere that I've worked, as much as I appreciate anybody's willingness to volunteer, from the manager's perspective, it really is helpful to come directly from the president. That just really needs to be the way that is, because then I answer to one person. Even though you're the board as a whole, they are the president, and they're the final say on anything in my mind. So I would really much prefer that role stay with the president, unless he's just sick of it and says, I don't want to do this anymore. But after what I've seen from this week, the amount of meetings, and then even before I started, the back and forth of emails and stuff, for him to transfer that history to anybody right now would be pretty much impossible. There's a lot going on, and I would much prefer that it stay with him if we can keep it that way.
Nothing, but it's a board decision. And
It is a board decision.
We're still functioning as a body. If we're making any policy decisions, I have the obligation to communicate. And if I'm not doing that, you have to call me out or any future president at a board meeting and say, hey, are you not communicating with us? How did this happen? You're just going rogue.
So how is this different than what we've done in the past where we had the board president engaging on a regular basis with the general manager, but then we also had a board liaison?
Well, I think that was a bit messy, frankly.
Okay.
I think you need a point person, frankly. And to me, I want to know who I need to go to. When you have two people responding, it's, like I said, it's messy, but it's a board decision. I just think this organizes the board as a body to function much better, because we don't want a lot of individuals micromanaging anybody.
It feels like this conversation should have been before the last one. Like, why did we vote on a liaison at all?
I wasn't part of the board.
You have a motion and a second. You have not voted.
Okay. I just, if I can add something, it's not something I'm unfamiliar with, and Grady had no idea, but I have been the board liaison before for the Diocese of Buffalo and Orlando. So our local church, I would be the liaison to either to the high school board of directors or to the diocesan board of directors. And I was a busy girl, and I enjoyed it. And I can catch up. So, but I don't want that to sway the decision.
This is you guys' decision. It's just that the board president, to me, is the one that should do it.
About this prior tonight. So it's something that interests me very much.
Well, the other comment that would like to make is that when the board president changes at the election, how do we transfer that information cleanly from one president to the next?
It would be the responsibility of the president to get the new president up to speed. But frankly, I should be updating you.
The whole board should be up to speed to some degree. I mean, I would
Right.
think that.
This is just a unique situation, and
The
that things are
timing of
moving
it.
so quickly
Yeah.
right now.
And this can actually grow and develop as the quarter proceeds and we get ready for the elections. Another thing too is that we do need to see contractually what we are required to do. So that I'll have to look into.
Additionally, even if Kathy is working directly with Ron as the board liaison, Kathy's required to send out a manager's report to the board of directors every Friday so that she updates the entire board as to what's going on. I don't know if that's going to happen this Friday, but every Friday she is obligated, because we will go in and check that there was discussions or we had a meeting with Down to Earth or the following invoices were approved, things of that nature. That's required to be sent to the entire board as of 5 o'clock on Friday evenings. So
Starting next week. There's my, I gotta throw that in.
So the entire board will know what transpired that week, and you'll all be informed as to what's going on.
Since we only have a couple more months until the election, and we don't know who's going to be elected, to make that change now, I think is too early. I think Ron needs to continue doing what he's doing and then see who's elected in March. Because, it may be a whole new board.
Well, and for continuity, this gives him time to wrap things up even.
And I vote, it's not a personal matter. I just felt it was incumbent on me to explain what's going on. And
Yeah, because that is a different setup than what I had thought it was when we were first talking about this, because it's different than when we've done it in the past. I wouldn't necessarily want to take all the things that you've been working on and all of a sudden transition that and expect Kathleen to be the one coordinating that, right? So,
the goal is not to have 6 or 7 board members
Right, yeah,
in the
right.
management's
Oh,
office.
we're all in agreement
Bother.
there. Yeah.
Letting them work. So let's take a vote, unless there's any more discussion.
What's the motion?
I believe the motion is to appoint Kathleen as the board liaison.
And you have a first and a second, don't you?
You also have the option to vote to table without actually voting it down.
Right. I was gonna say, can we either amend it or suggest the tabling to March?
That makes sense.
I would agree with that.
So,
Do you want to move the table?
I would say so.
All in favor? Okay. Just as a couple housekeeping matters too, I got another resolution, unfortunately. I move that each resolution approved by a board continues to be in place unless specifically revoked by a future board in a properly noticed meeting in front of residents. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
It makes sense to me.
I'll just add the reason why I'm moving, because I want everything to be in front of residents. I don't want any resolution that is made by this board to be disregarded or rejected. There are things there's something called unanimous consent. There's a question whether it's proper to use or not, and personally, I don't feel it is. But some boards could take liberties and do things through unanimous consent outside the view of the residents. This way, we're saying in front of a properly noticed meeting in front of the residents, that makes sure you know that everything that is going on. So when we pass a resolution, it is in place until another board rejects it in front of you all. And that's the reason.
They rescind the policy.
Exactly. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Grady, I want to appoint you as liaison to the landscaping committee.
You need a motion on that?
Well, I just want to make.
Oh, he made an appointment.
Yeah, I'm using my
Congratulations.
my power as president. Is that okay?
That's fine.
We don't need to move.
No, it's an appointment by the
Okay.
president.
and can I suggest another appointment? Kathleen was the chair on the Covenants Committee and now is a board member. She cannot serve as a committee member. So I'm looking to step away and would like to consideration of appointing Kathleen for continuity's sake as the covenants, liaison to the covenants committee.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
I like that.
Do you accept or do we have to honor?
I accept. No, I like that committee. It's been a well greased wheel.
Also, I wanted to appoint David Gould to replace Jim Swigert as Special Projects Committee Chair. Jim, we all know, is just an amazing volunteer and has been helping us so much. He's one of the few residents who will really tell me how much I'm screwing something up. Hopefully Jim watches this, and thank you, Jim. But any objections to appointing David Gould to replace Jim Swigert?
What's the last name?
Gould, G-O-U-L-D.
Okay, perfect.
And thank you, David, for volunteering. No, he's not here this evening. I would also like to direct the Finance Committee to come up with an investment plan. We have our CDs that have matured. I know this is an interesting time for CD investment, to say the least. So your work's cut out for you. Any objections to the Finance Committee presenting an opinion in terms of our investment? Todd?
I have no objection.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anyone else?
Have another drink.
Reputation.
Where's Rick?
All right. I think that is all that I have. We have old business, which was already discussed, the 2022 Board of Directors. New business. The next regular board meeting is scheduled for February 24th, 2022 at 6 p.m. here. We are going to work diligently to get the quarterly resident forum up and going. We wanted to give Kathy a chance to get up to speed so it would be productive, but we're going to work really hard to get that done. I know we still have some outstanding questions from residents, and we want to make sure they're all answered. Does anyone else have any new business or anything to add?
Just a clarification point. So the monthly board meetings, the last Thursday of the month,
correct,
February 24th, and the quarterly meeting is in addition to, not to replace.
Yes, it's basically a resident forum where the board is present, so it will be noticed, and they can have a question and answer session. Is that how you saw it going?
The only difference is that with like a formal board meeting like this, you have to have a quorum to conduct business. No actual business is conducted at a resident forum.
Okay.
What that will be is if, let's say, only 3 of you are available on the night that we set, you do not have to have a quorum to run a resident forum. They can not be here at all if they can't for some reason. It is an opportunity for you to speak to the board and management about anything you want. There's no agenda. The only thing we'll ask is that you sign up when you get here, and that it will be restricted to 1 hour. So I don't want like 300 people in here expecting to have the floor for indefinitely. You won't be struck to the 3-minute time frame, but you will be asked to keep it as brief as you can. We want everybody to have their rear ends by the time they walk out of here. So to be kind, polite, respectful, have some decorum, but you can talk about anything that you want to talk about when it comes to this community. Sure. Absolutely. Anything you want.
Will this be a notice meeting?
Yes, it will be noticed. I'm going to try to, once we can nail down a time, I'm going to get with Lauren and see what she's got. Check you guys out, pop a little thing out. These are the dates that we have. What I would like to do is like at the end of each quarter, because like March the end of the quarter, I would like to try and schedule it sometime in the first week of April, and then each quarter after that, so
and
that
it
we're
is
done.
subject to the sunshine laws in terms of notice, but just not quorum. Is that accurate?
In a sense, because it is a member meeting, the difference is that you don't have to have a quorum. The sunshine law basically is when you are conducting business, and there is no business allowed. Even if you decide all of a sudden you like his idea that he came with his think tank, you cannot file a motion and it cannot be voted on. This is strictly discussion.
So in that capacity, the board members are each more residents than a functioning board.
Yeah, I mean, you're here, I mean, you don't, again, you're not required to be, let's say only 3 of you are here, and somebody asks something about Envera, but he can't be here that night. We take notes, and all we do is promise that we will get back to them, if you don't know. Yeah, it just gives everybody an opportunity to talk about anything they want, without making a board meeting longer.
Right.
Also, we've had some trouble locating a prior resolution that a prior board passed. Basically, the resolution was that if there's any threat or profanity directed at a committee member, a staff member, that it could result in a fine, which would be subject to the resident fining committee.
I'll look and see what I can find in the office. That was a formal motion at some point?
Yes, it was a formal motion. If you cannot find that, that resolution,
I can look too.
we could move to do that again.
When?
June of 2018.
June of 2018? Okay. Well, because there are several notebooks over there that,
We have found, the committee has, we have found that.
I can share the docs with y'all.
Okay. Anything else?
I just have
I got
two
one quick thing,
Please.
Mr. President. The last time the board met, one of the concerns that I had that I shared with the board was the transition from FSR to Associate, and during that transition time of things perhaps disappearing. I just wanted to give you a quick update. I'm not going to get specific, but the team of us, which was Mr. Elkins, Mr. Saganik, and myself, did it on December 29th, and we prepared a 2-page report of deficiencies that we saw from our lens during that transition, and then provided it to Heather. Hopefully she found that helpful during her transition to Sandoval.
Very, very helpful.
The only thing I think that we're missing is the key to the thermostat box. It's disappeared.
Walked away?
Just walked
Well,
away.
we need to rekey. It's a pretty important key, frankly.
Especially to Yamali when it gets very hot in there.
well, and we do have Keens coming out, so I could always ask them to do that while they're here.
Yep.
Ron, I have two.
Please.
Regarding the pool and cell phones, it's just a suggestion, but if you are going to have them lock up their cell phones for emergencies out at the pool, there has to be a way for somebody, staff-wise or residents will have their phones, to call 911. It's just a concern that popped up in my head. And then I wanted to know if, is it possible that we ask for those 3 Facebook pages, or 4, how many are out there for Sandoval, that anybody that has named a board member for tearing down Christmas decorations, that slander be removed? Can we
You
ask
can
that
request
as a
it,
board?
there's nothing we can
I'm
do as far as
formally
requirement.
requesting that as a
Yeah.
board, that be taken off all Facebook pages.
I just hope there's some decorum when it comes to that in the future. We have an election coming up. I don't want any residents to be intimidated. I want as many residents to volunteer to be a member of the board without intimidation. It's good for the community, frankly. And it's unfortunate when honestly, it's about 20, 30 people have taken on the voice of thousands. But we need to do our job better and serve as better communicators and make sure that we're on the ball to making sure all the residents have a place to go to get updated information. Because frankly, some of the sites do provide information, and that's a failure on our part. So there's things that we can do to remove the necessity. Anybody else with new business? I just have a couple of new business items I'd like to add. A proposal for the bocce ball courts for the next board meeting. I'd also like to work with landscaping to get a specific instructions in terms of pruning shade trees. Right now, they're not really clear. I want residents to be able to provide something to their landscaper to properly prune their shade trees. It'll also be a requirement. I want to.
Sorry, is that for communities not managed by Down to Earth?
It's a community-wide deed restriction requirement.
But Down to Earth residents wouldn't need to provide anything, right?
Well, we would provide it directly
To Down to Earth.
Down to Earth, yes. But it would basically be
The same standards.
I'd also like to at least consider a proposal to make muffler modifications a deed restriction issue. State law requires that any muffler that is modified cannot be louder than the original muffler. That is a state law. It's not being enforced, unfortunately. We only have a very few examples of this, but it's impacting a lot of residents. So at least I would like to have a proposal for that for the next board meeting. And also, we're dealing with about 5 cars that have 12-inch woofers at least that are shaking houses, and I'd like to consider a proposal in terms of giving the HOA some authority to deal with those 5 cars out of the thousands that are not doing that. And that's all that I have. Anything else? Okay.
These new silent cars, aren't they?
We'll work on that, Bob. Okay. At this point, I'd like to move to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? It's adjourned.
Good job.
Yeah, we're going to do some open forum. You guys don't even need to stick around.